Welcome to Live with Anton Gunn. It's Wednesday, 2 p.m. East Coast time, 11 a.m. Pacific to the Central and Mountain time zone. You know it's time to get in where you fit in. I'm so excited about being with you this week. So I'm going to give you a chance to really dive in here, log on, be connected to me with this session because I really want to have a conversation around mentorship. We have taken the entire month of August and talked about some key leadership and culture topics, but have framed them up through hip hop. Now, why have I taken the opportunity to frame them up through hip hop? Because this month we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the founding of hip hop, the birth of hip hop, which started in the Bronx, New York on August 11, 1973, when Cindy Campbell and Clive Campbell, her brother, Kool Herc, had a party. Now, I've talked about all of that, but we're coming to the last Wednesday in August. And so I want to close out these hip hop stories with a few stories about the power and the importance of mentorship. So to do that, I want to first ask a question. Do you have mentors? If you don't have mentors, I want you to understand that you need mentors if you ever want to achieve success. I'm going to talk to you today about some people who achieve monumental success in the essence of hip hop music and culture because they had mentors. I'm also going to ask you this second question. Do you mentor other people? Because I would say to you that the greatest leaders that we see around are leaders who always mentor others. That many times their success as a leader is reflected through the success of the people that they mentor. Yes, the student ends up outshining the teacher. But sometimes people get mentorship and leadership confused, and they don't do either. They don't have mentors, and they don't serve as mentors to other people. But I want you to know that if you have mentors, it's a powerful thing, an impactful thing to cement your legacy and extend your reach into the greatness sphere. That's what I call it, the sphere of greatness. But if you don't have mentors, you can be deemed as selfish. You can be deemed as controlling. You can be deemed as insecure. You can be deemed as a know-it-all and think that it's all about you. But I want you to understand that mentorship is everything. So today, I'm going to unpack 3 stories in hip hop that talk about mentorship and leadership that will give you a great framework of the things that you should be doing to be the greatest amongst us. The greatest amongst us is the person who does the most mentorship. That's at least one of the elements of greatness is mentorship. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. And so this starts with the question. The question is, who is the greatest rapper of all time? I want you to comment on who you think the greatest rapper of all time is. Let me know in the comments. I'm going to share with you 3 rappers that I put up there in that greatness list. They're not all number 1. They're all not number 5. I'm not getting into numbers about who the greatest rapper of all time. But the names that I'm going to talk about in this session are unquestionably in the top 5. So when I say top 5, let's say top 25. Top 25. So let me go ahead and jump right in. And the first person that I want to talk about is Nas. Nas is one of the greatest rappers of all time in my book. He's absolutely one of my personal favorite rappers of all time, who some people could argue right now and say he's had the greatest career in hip hop. He's an artist that started his career in 1994, and he burst upon the scene with a lot of energy. And some people say he put out one of the most classic hip hop albums, the most perfect hip hop albums of all time, and that was Illmatic. But Nas in 2023 has just released a new album called King's Disease 3 and has a lot of attention, a lot of notice, and literally see his rap career still flourishing some 30 plus years later after he entered the game. So this is amazing for us to see. So Nas is one. The second rapper I'm going to talk to you about is Jay-Z. Everybody knows Jay-Z. Everybody has seen Jay-Z. He's a billionaire. He's married to Beyonce. He's a great rapper, great businessman. He owns Rock Nation and all kinds of other things. There's a lot to say about Jay-Z's greatness. But I want to talk about Jay-Z's mentor as a part of this conversation. Now, the third rapper that I'm going to talk about today is Big Punisher, aka Big Moondog Punisher was his original rap name. But everybody knew him as Big Pun. Big Pun had a short-lived career because he passed away shortly after getting started. But in the time that Big Pun was here, there was clear evidence that he would go down in history as one of the greatest lyricists of all time. His ability to rhyme over a record, he has some classic songs, I Don't Want to Be a Player, that literally stop every party and start every party. And so my context to you is that Big Pun is a great rapper to talk about in that top 25 list. But I also want to talk about Big Pun's mentors as a part of this conversation. So today, we're going to talk about Nas, we're going to talk about Jay-Z, and we're going to talk about Big Pun in the context of the people who mentored them and gave them a framework that helped them to become some of the most successful rappers of all time and names that are mentioned in the category of greatness. So I want to start with Nas. Everybody knows that Nas is from Queensbridge Projects in New York City. Now, Queensbridge Projects is a famous community for hip hop. I mean, there's a long list of hip hop artists that come out of Queensbridge. In addition to Nas, you got Mobb Deep. You got Marley Marl, who's a great producer. You got MC Shan, who had the song The Bridge. You got Tragedy, or Gaddafi, as other people call him, that are also out of Queensbridge. And there are other artists that I can name. But the first hood superstar out of Queensbridge as a rapper is arguably Roxanne Shante. Roxanne Shante made her first song in 1984 with Marley Marl. That song was a response record to a group called UTFO. Roxanne Shante made that hit song, and it was amazing. And what was so amazing about it is that she was a woman responding to four guys on a record who were talking about this girl named Roxanne. But what people did not know about Roxanne Shante from Queensbridge is that she was a legendary battle rapper. She would eat people alive in rap contests, and she didn't mind battling anybody at 14 years old. She was fierce in the streets when it came to battle rapping. And so a lot of kids in the Queensbridge housing projects looked up to Roxanne Shante because she was deemed as a superstar because of her diss record back at UTFO. And so when Roxanne Shante was 14, 15, 16, growing up in Queensbridge, all of the young kids looked up to her. And one of those young kids was Nasir Jones. His first rap name was Kid Wave, but we know him as Nas today. Well, when Nas was about 9 or 10 is when he started rapping. He didn't really take rap seriously at all. He had some nice rhymes, but he wasn't really serious about it. And one day, Shante heard Nas rapping. She heard him, and she was interested because she heard some niceness to his flow. But Shante didn't suffer fools. She also didn't suffer people who didn't take it seriously because it was serious for her. And so that day that she saw Nas in the hallway in Queensbridge outside of a building, she said to Nas, "You're pretty good." And I'm paraphrasing here. She said, "You're pretty good. You got a little bit of skills, but you ain't taking it seriously. And if I don't see you tighten up your raps, if I don't see you to improve your rapping ability. Next time I see you, I'm going to mess you up good. And she didn't say mess you up good. She actually used a 4-letter word for it. And basically, she scared Nas because he knew that this hood superstar, who he saw as his high esteemed leader, took some interest in him, but then told him that he can't cut corners and be soft with his ability to rhyme and to rap. And Nas has said in several interviews, it was that moment of Shantae checking him from the neck up in the hallway in Queensbridge that made him take hip hop seriously. And he began to focus on the craft. So, lesson number one for you being a mentor to other people is that you need to inspire and motivate people with your words. Now, Shantae's words weren't clean and neat and pristine. They were raw and uncut, but they convicted Nas in his spirit to take his work seriously. And that's when he began to focus on his ability to rap. That's the first lesson for you. Now, to continue with the Nas story, I want you to understand that rapping ability alone is not how you build a successful and monumental career. You have to have some help. And so Nas had some help, and that was a gentleman by the name of Large Professor, or AKA Extra P. Large Professor was a producer and a rapper in a group known as Main Source. And they had a couple great hits, like A Friendly Game of Baseball, Watch Roger Do His Thing, and Looking at the Front Door. Great hits. But Large Professor was an excellent producer. And so one of the things he did in Queensbridge is he recorded some great music in Queensbridge. One of the great albums that he recorded in Queensbridge came from two artists, two different albums, but two different artists. One was Kool G Rap, and the other one was Rakim, as in Eric B. and Rakim. And so Large Professor knew that Nas wanted to be a rapper, wanted to be in the industry, and kind of took him under his wing. He also was producing for Rakim, and he was also producing for Kool G Rap. And while they were in the studio making their albums, Large Professor allowed Nas to come into the studio to see them record their music. And it was Rakim that became another inspiration for Nas. And you can listen to Nas's song called UBR, Unauthorized Biography of Rakim, where he tells the story of Rakim's life and how it inspired and motivated him. If you listen to Nas rap, you will hear Kool G Rap in the lyrical flow. You will hear Rakim in the lyrical flow. That they became influences because Nas got a chance to see them do the work. And so lesson number two is, if you want to be a good mentor, you got to let others who are younger than you, who look up to you, see them do your work. You got to bring them with you to work. You got to bring them in to the processes that you put together if you want them to have success. And here is the beautiful thing about Nas being in the studio with Kool G Rap and Rakim, that whenever Rakim did not show up to the studio, Large Professor allowed Nas to go into the booth and record his own rhymes. So the first time Nas got a chance to be recorded in a studio was because Rakim wasn't in the studio, but had rented the studio time. So my third lesson for you is that you have to allow people to work with you. And I would say that it was these experiences that helped Nasir Jones become arguably one of the greatest rappers of all time in hip hop, is that he was motivated, inspired by a great rapper in his own community. And then he got a chance to see other great rappers to work. That's the first story of Nas and the first role in the power of a mentor. Now, the second story I want to talk about is Jay-Z, Jigga Man, AKA Hove, AKA whatever nickname you want to give him. Sean Carter is his name, and everybody loves him. So if you are a Jay-Z fan, I want you to type into the chat, what's your favorite Jay-Z song? If you got a Jay-Z song that you like. I'll tell you, my favorite Jay-Z song is called Where I'm From. That's my absolute favorite. The second one is Imaginary Players. That's my second favorite song. But there's a lot of other great hits that Jay-Z has, and he had great music and great songs. But we know Jay-Z as a legendary businessman today, but for many years, he said that he was the greatest rapper of all time. And you would find people who would argue you down and still argue you down today that Jay-Z is the greatest rapper to ever touch a microphone. And I'm not going to argue against it right now, even though he's not my number one favorite. Nas and Rakim are my number one and number two favorites. But I'm not going to argue against Jay-Z. But I will say to you that if you did not know who Jay-Z's number one mentor is in the music business, I'm going to share it with you today. Because if it wasn't for this person, you may not even know who Jay-Z is. You may not have ever saw Jay-Z rhyme as a solo artist. And I'm talking about none other than Big Daddy Kane. Big Daddy Kane is a Brooklyn rapper, legendary MC in his own right, one of the greatest of all time. And yes, I have Big Daddy Kane in my personal top 5 because he was that good. And from 1987, 1988, 89, 1990, 1991, there was no bigger rap star and celebrity other than LL Cool J than Big Daddy Kane. Big Daddy Kane was everything. He was a sex symbol. He was like doing stuff with Madonna. You know, he was in movies. Big Daddy Kane was doing everything between that run of 1988 to 1991 and beyond. Today, even today, Big Daddy Kane still travels around the country and sells out shows because he's that good as a rapper and a performer. His stage show is unmatched other than maybe Dougie Fresh. But Big Daddy Kane is a great MC. Lyrically, he has some incredible songs that literally take me over the top every time I'm listening. Raw is one of his great songs. Mortal Kombat is another great song. I Get the Job Done is another great song. I could go on and on and on and on about Big Daddy Kane's songs. Well, here's the story of mentorship as it relates to Big Daddy Kane and Jay-Z. Jay-Z in 1990, 89, 90, was someone that Big Daddy Kane met in the community of Brooklyn, around Brooklyn, because Jay-Z was around rap. He was doing some stuff with his friend Jaz-O, who Kane knew. A lot of people knew Jay-Z attached to Jaz-O. But Jay-Z really didn't have the opportunity to understand what it was like to make music, make records, and to build a brand as a showman in the business. But Big Daddy Kane, when he was at the height of his status as a rapper in 1990, he put together a tour where he took other great artists like MC Lyte, Queen Latifah, and others to showcase around the country. And Big Daddy Kane decided to bring his young mentee, Jay-Z, with him on tour. And Big Daddy Kane tells a story that when he was selling out shows in arenas, he had this dynamic stage show where he would have on one set of clothes and rap the first half of his show, and then he would go into the back and change clothes and come back out for the second set of the show. But in between that wardrobe change, Big Daddy Kane allowed Jay-Z to get on stage and rap. So can you imagine that? Being a rapper that didn't have an album out, there wasn't a household name to people around the world, that wasn't famous at all, but you get taken on tour with the superstar. And in the middle of the superstar set, he introduces you to the audience, allow you to get on stage and rap and entertain the audience while he goes to the back and changes clothes for 15 minutes. And so Jay-Z learned on how to build a great stage show. Jay-Z learned how to improve his rhyme style and his flow, all from Big Daddy Kane. It all happened when Big Daddy Kane embodied a mentorship principle, is to allow other people to see you work, because there was a lot of learning by being on tour with Big Daddy Kane, to see how you actually supposed to be on a tour, how you're supposed to be a stage performer, how you're supposed to interact with fans, how you're supposed to engage on stage. How do you make it entertaining and dynamic? That's what Jay-Z got to see up close and personal long before he was a famous household rapper himself selling out arenas. He got to see Big Daddy Kane work. And Big Daddy Kane took him to work with him and allowed him to get his own shine on stage in front of the audience. So my question for you, if you're a mentor, do you allow your mentees to get some shine in meetings? Do you move yourself out of the way to allow them to have some of the spotlight so they can show their value and their worth? If you're not, then you're not embodying a principle of greatness. And I would encourage you to do so. You got to focus on getting out of the way, giving them space, and let them to be great on their own. That's what Big Daddy Kane did for Jay-Z. And I believe it was instrumental for how Jay-Z began to grow as an artist, as a rapper, as a performer, and how to make good songs, because Big Daddy Kane made some great songs. Again, a cornerstone of being great yourself is being a great mentor. And again, in my book, Big Daddy Kane will always be better than Jay-Z, because at the time that he came around, what he was able to do, his classic verses on tracks like The Symphony with Marley Marl and Master Ace and Craig G and Cool G Rap, there was nobody better than Big Daddy Kane. So I will tell you, Big Daddy Kane was a great mentor for Jay-Z. Now, the third person that I want to cover for you in this conversation is Big Pun, Big Punisher. See, Big Punisher was a Latino rapper. He was actually the first platinum Latino rapper, the first one to go platinum for his ability on wax. Now, Fat Joe was the first gold rapper and the first Latin rapper to make an album from the East Coast, because you had Kid Frost and Mellow Man Ace and Cypress Hill and a few others. But Fat Joe is a legend in his own right. And I want you to know that we would not know Big Pun if it was not for Fat Joe. See, I just got finished reading the book of Jose, which is Fat Joe's autobiography. Really is his autobiography, telling his story, and it was a great read. And I learned in that book some more details about the story of Big Pun through the eyes of Fat Joe. And Big Moondog Punisher, as his name was at the time, was in a whole nother rap collective, and they used to rap in the bodegas and on the corners in the Bronx. And one day, after Fat Joe had already released his album and was starting to blow up as an artist, Big Pun says, Twin, because they were both heavy set, fat Latin guys. And Big Dog Punisher, or Big Moondog Punisher, said, hey, Twin, let me rap for you. And so you don't know how many times Fat Joe has had somebody come up to him and say, hey, let me rap for you, let me rap for you, let me rap for you, let me rap for you. And he would listen to him and he would kind of dismiss him. He wouldn't pull him along. He wouldn't really, bring him on into his camp. But when Big Dog Punisher started rapping for him that day, it was clear to Fat Joe that this guy was different. So not only did he follow up with him, he put him in the car and they drove off. And then Big Pun started to tell him his whole life story and why he needed to make it and why he wanted to make it. And the next thing you know, Fat Joe is mentoring Big Pun. He was like his big brother. And that's where he learned the business, learned how to make records, made some of the greatest hits, put him as a part of his group called the Terror Squad. And so the biggest hits that we got from Big Pun became biggest hits because of his support and mentorship from Fat Joe. So what am I telling you to do is, number one, you always got to be looking for young talent to mentor. That's the lesson for you. Is to always be looking for young talent to mentor. I've personally mentored more than 197 people over my career. Yeah, I took time one day and wrote down all of the people that I've mentored. And I'm always looking for talent. I get a lot of people asking for mentorship, but I don't find a lot of people who's willing to do what the mentor tells them to do if they want to be successful. And clearly, Big Pun was committed to being successful because he did everything that Fat Joe told him to do. And Fat Joe put him in position to be successful, but it required hard work. And so my mentees, I require a lot of them. Like, don't ask me if you want to be my mentee if you're not willing to do some basics, like read all of my books, like watch my videos, and then tell me what you learned from them. And then be prepared to ask great questions that will help you to move along in your journey. So I want you to know that the keys to mentorship is being able to do all of these things that I've laid out for you. That is, inspire people and motivate them with the right words, like Shantae motivated Nas. You got to let them see you work the same way Nas got to see Coogee Rap and Rakim work, the same way Jay-Z got a chance to see Big Daddy Kane work. And you got to allow them to work with you. You got to bring them with you, bring them into the room. The same way Large Professor brought Nas in the room, the same way Big Daddy Kane brought Jay-Z on tour and allowed him to work with him. And you also got to give them the space to shine on their own. And I'm telling you right now that all of those great artists, Nas, Jay-Z, and Big Pun, got to shine on their own because their mentors created the space for them to shine on their own. Roxanne Shante never crapped on Nas when he became successful in the 90s and her career was starting to wind down. She didn't crap on him. She supported him. Same with Big Daddy Kane and Jay-Z. Same with Fat Joe and Big Pun. You got to support the people. Give them the space to shine on their own. And here's the last one. This is a very important principle for all mentors. This last principle is be an unconditional supporter of their success. See, your mentees very well may surpass you in leadership. As a matter of fact, they should surpass you in leadership. They should go on and do bigger and better things than you've ever done. And it's clear from the examples that I gave you that the mentees went on to do bigger and better things than all of their mentors. There's no question that Nas has sold more records, had more impact, and made more money than Roxanne Shante, than Rakim, and Coogee Rap. There's no question that Jay-Z has been more successful than Big Daddy Kane has as a financial artist, as a businessman, as in whatever measurement you want to use other than being in my top 5. And there's no question that Big Pun was the best thing that ever happened to Terror Squad. Yes, Remy Ma is good. Yes, DJ Khaled is good. But nobody is as lyrically dominant in Terror Squad as Big Pun. And if Big Pun had not died of a heart attack, we would probably be talking about him in the list of the greatest rappers of all time, like top 3 or top 5. Because if you listen to his lyrical ability, you will understand that there's people trying to duplicate who he is and what he's done. Now, I could have chosen a lot more other artists like Eminem for this conversation, or Biggie Smalls, Notorious B.I.G. I could have chosen a lot of artists, but I chose 3 that I feel very passionate and supportive about as being the greatest mentees who have gone on to unprecedented and legendary success. And I wanted to take the time to share with you their mentors. And so mentorship is incredibly important. You need to learn how to be a great mentor. And I will tell you that I'm here today in front of you because I've had great mentors. I've had people in my life who have poured into me over and over again, who did all of these things that I talked about, inspired me with words, brought me to work with them, allowed me to see them work, gave me space to operate and lead on my own. And yes, they're unconditionally supportive of my success. Now, I can't name them all, but I'm going to give you a few of those names because I believe in giving people their flowers while they are still here. The first on that list is Lenora Bush Reese. The second on that list is Myron Terry. A third person on that list is John Roof. Fourth person on that list is Sai Khan. And I'm just giving you on a list. They're in some order, but not the most important order. I'll also add in Chuck D as a mentor, and he blessed me by writing the foreword to my first book, The Audacity of Leadership. So I've had mentors who didn't think it was robbery to spend time with me, to help me, to give me an hour out of their day. Another name on that list is a guy named Quint Studer, who most of you don't know unless you work in healthcare. These are all people who've poured in me and given me something to allow me to grow. Now, I could start naming the 197 mentees that I've mentored, but I would get in trouble if I start naming people because somebody's going to be mad that they get left out if I don't go through all 197 names. But here's what I will tell you. Some of these people are incredibly successful. They're CEOs of large financial associations. They've been senior vice presidents at other institutions. They own their own law firms. They've run for mayor. They've run for Congress. They've run for governor. You know, they've done all kinds of amazing things. And I'm so very proud of all of them. And I'm so happy that they're getting the shine that they deserve. Because for me, mentorship is not about me, but it's about the legacy that I can create by helping people to achieve their own success, their own significance. And y'all know what I feel about legacy. Legacy is that great quote from Dr. Miles Monroe that says, success without a successor is a failure. So I intentionally use my time, my talent, my opportunities to leave those that come along after me better than I found them when I met them, by pouring into them, serving them, empowering them, and teaching them how to lead in their own way. That is the important role of a mentor and why you should be a mentor. So if you liked anything that you heard in this video, I want you to comment and tell me what you like below. And I want you to share this with someone who you think would get the most benefit about learning how to be a great mentor. This is the last in the 5-part series, Leadership and Culture Lessons Through the Lens of Hip Hop Stories. We'll be back again next Wednesday talking about a whole nother set of topics and subjects, but I just wanted to add value to you, to the community, and share my love for hip hop music and culture, what it is meant to me and what it continues to provide for me and for this world. Everybody have a fantastic day. Take care.